Good morning, Good morning, everybody. I hope you're well. Happy Tuesday. Thanks for joining us today on Facebook Live. Today, we're going to be talking about maintaining your mental health while you job search. So, for everybody that is joining us, thank you so much. I just wanted to start out by saying, I woke up this morning kind of worried about today's Facebook Live event. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to talk about? I was getting a little stressed out this morning, and I think it was actually kind of fitting that I was a little bit stressed out because I felt my mental health taking a toll, which, I was able to kind of stop for just a second, even two minutes before I started this live event to think about, what that really means and how can I apply that? How can I send that message across? So thank you so much for joining me today. I'd just like to say, last week we talked about, resumes, tips and tricks that you could use to improve your resume. And if you missed that opportunity to join us, I encourage you to head over to the video section on our Facebook page and check out our videos and click on the resumes and see if there's anything in there that resonates with you for your resume, because that's your first tool that you're going to be using for your job search. So really, let's dive into why mental health is important for job searching. I mean, I think it's it's a pretty common knowledge that mental health is important, on a variety of scales or reasons, and employability or becoming employment ready is no different. Mental health, it really has an impact on everything that we do. It has an effect on everything from your health to your relationships to how you're going to stay motivated. I mean, just think to yourself, regardless of what maybe challenges you might have in your life, think about your general mental health and what it feels like when you're feeling great, mentally, versus what it feels like when you're not feeling so great. And what those things, suffer are really. And I mean, for myself, it can come down to, first off, the food that I'm eating. When I'm feeling anxious or when I'm feeling down or aggravated or frustrated or, confined these days, that's a common thing that I'm feeling. I tend to turn over to junk food. It's the easiest way to make myself feel better, and those kind of things are, they might be short-term great, great ways to feel a little bit better, but in long term, they're really not having a good impact on our physical health, which in turn is going to go and play an impact on our mental health. So you can see that, mental health is really an important piece to maintaining not just your physical well-being, but as well as your relationships with others. Have you ever felt snappy with somebody else when you're feeling down or trying to concentrate on work? Perhaps, something that you're not comfortable doing, that's a difficult task for you. And if you're not feeling in the game, or if you're feeling anxious about it or fearful or, just downright frustrated, that ability for you to, stay on topic, to stay focused with your tasks is going to be really hard. It's a heck of a lot easier to just binge watch Netflix. There's so many good shows right now. But that's a different story. So, making sure that your mental health is really important, because it's not just going to make sure that you're staying resilient. We're going to talk about resiliency in a little bit and what that means. But it's really important because those things that go along with promoting your mental health, those skills that you use for your mental health, they're also employable skills. There are those skills that you can showcase to an employer or a potential employer, that are going to be something that they're going to value. You think about just being self-aware, about your mental health. That self-awareness is a piece that is something that everybody's going to want to be able to look for, right? It's about being able to, self-awareness is about being able to recognize where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, and accompanied with that, it's being able to, then communicate on what those things might be. So I'm spiraling here a little bit. So let's talk about, self-awareness. Self-awareness in itself about your mental health then, is going to help you identify maybe some of those anxieties that you have and some of those triggers that cause those anxieties to come up. And if you can have a good sense of what those triggers might be, especially if they relate to job searching or interviewing or any of that process, you can then start to communicate and what those needs are. First to yourself, you can communicate, you could say, okay, you know what? I really need support here, or I need to develop a certain skill here. And in doing that, once you start communicating to yourself, you can communicate with others and you can start to network, right? And when you're networking for your mental health, if you're taking the responsibility for your own mental health and going out there and reaching out to some of the services that are out there, whether it's addictions and mental health, whether it's Canadian Mental Health Services, whether it's, there's so many out there. And I'm having a hard time remembering all of them, and that's a big part of where it comes down to is that we can't really do everything on our own. Networking is an important part of maintaining that mental health. It's reaching out to somebody with a different perspective. It's reaching out to somebody that has a different piece of information that can help us, that we can apply to ourselves. So, mental health also includes problem solving. When you're looking at, communicating to yourself and sending that message out to other people, you're going to run into problems, with your mental health, whether it's coping skills or trying to find the right support for you. It takes problem solving. Right. And with problem solving, that's something that is transferable absolutely on an everyday basis into a job. Employers are going to really want to see that you can do all of these things, that you can network, that you can communicate, that you can problem solve. So when you're doing all these things for your mental health, they're transferable. They're going to help you with your job search down the road. OK, and with all of these things, it really helps develop that resiliency. We talked a little bit, I mentioned resiliency earlier. So what is resiliency? You might have heard that topic or you might have heard that term come up when people are talking about mental health. And everybody kind of thinks, that, I'm like that superhero pose. I'm good for anything. I can handle anything. Right. And really the way that I like to look about resilience or resiliency is it's an interaction. Okay. And it's an interaction between your strengths and your skills that you have in your pocket with, your positive attitudes that you have, and also with the supports that you've developed over the years or over the recent months or whatever it might be. Right. So resiliency is, the result of your skills and your positive attitude and your networking ability. And when you have that interaction all working together, it's going to help you either withstand or bounce back from traumatic events, right? And, I think that people really take for granted how traumatic job searching can be. If you just think about the whole concept of the hiring process, only successful candidates will be contacted. And usually when you do get a rejection, it's either, very impersonal and you don't really get too much feedback. It's a thanks very much for trying, but we're going to go in a different direction, and for people that can be really, really derailing, emotionally and mentally, as well as physically. You can just feel, I'm really deflated. I knew I had a really great shot at this job and I poured everything I had into my application process. And somebody's basically, not gotten back to me or told me that I'm not good enough. Right. And that can really, have an effect on our ability to bounce back from that, and if you've ever had that feeling where, you've lost out on a job and a job opportunity and you've said, the heck with it, I'm going to go, and try something else, or I'm going to give up for a while, until I find the next perfect job. Right. And, those are the things that we can find end up, putting us into a rut. You get off topic, you stop making time to job search because it's easier to binge watch Netflix. It's easier to do all those other things that we know we are capable of doing, right? And so resiliency is really, it's not an easy thing to develop. It takes practice, and I think with all of the skills in job searching and employability, maintaining a job, whatever it is, any skill that you're not comfortable with is going to take an element of practice. You're going to need to try it once, twice, 3 times, and that might not be enough to master it. You might have to make it a daily habit, a weekly habit, to develop those skills, to change that positive attitude, develop the support network, whatever it is that you need to do to maintain your mental health, right? And so we talk a lot about those skills that develop resiliency in terms of the job searching, right? And the first one that I always like to say is that resume writing. When you've got a really strong resume that you're comfortable and you're confident with, that's going to go a long way to making you feel good. And when you feel good, you're able to communicate that. And when you're able to communicate that, you can make sure that you're showcasing all of those most employable skills, those most valuable skills that you have on the table, okay? And so, we talk about, the resume writing skills. If that's something that you struggle with, that's definitely a skill that you need to start with. That's your first point of contact usually with employers. And so, as I mentioned before, we do have services that are available for you. If you're looking for extra help with your resume, check out the video that we had posted before. They talk a little about general tips, but that's not enough. If you need some extra help with your resumes, please give us a call at Meta or check us out on our Facebook page and connect with us through there. We'd be happy to set you up with either resources or supports through us to help you build your resume to make it improve so that you can have that confidence, so you feel good about it. Okay? Because once you get that resume out there, communication is the next part. That's the next skill that's really going to help you maintain your mental health, that resiliency. If you feel confident in your ability to communicate your message, then you can feel confident that people are getting the message that you need them to get. And that's really important, whether it's job searching or looking for supports. A lot of the times people are looking supports, but they don't tend to have that ability to communicate it well. See, I'm struggling with it myself. And communication is something that, again, just like those other skills, they need to be practiced. They need to be something that you become comfortable with. But the only way that you become comfortable with those kind of skills, build, practice, right? And the other thing about, organization is having that ability to break things down. And I know that whether it's resume building, whether it's, your mental health, having the ability to break a task down, resume writing or job searching, or heck, the example I like to make is, making peanut butter sandwiches. A lot of people take for granted how much goes into one particular behavior, one particular task, a peanut butter sandwich. If I said to you, tell me how to make a peanut butter sandwich, a lot of folks go with the same kind of instructions. Get the peanut butter, get the jelly, get some bread, get a plate and spread the peanut butter on the jelly, and spread the peanut butter on the bread, same thing as jelly. You get the idea. But if we were to take that task of peanut butter sandwich making and we were to break it down, we would see that there's so many more steps into making a peanut butter sandwich that we take for granted. So let's try that again. Make a peanut butter sandwich. Number 1, walk into the kitchen. Number 2, use your eyes to find the cupboard where your peanut butter is. Number 3, walk to the cupboard. Number 4, open the cupboard. Number 5, look for the peanut butter jar. Number 6, use your right hand to grab the peanut butter jar. You can start to see now that when we start breaking down that task, not only does it give us a clearer picture of what we're in for, but those steps are almost so simplified that it's almost laughable that you have to mention them. And so there's a reason that we do those kind of things, especially when we're trying to maintain resiliency, maintain our mental health. It's a lot nicer to be able to check things off our list and have that, I did it feeling, rather than that ominous to-do list, which is a mile long, and you just feel so daunted that you try to avoid it, or when you're going through it, you can't escape that sense of feeling overwhelmed. So by breaking tasks down, we're really making it manageable. We're really giving ourselves time to manage those tasks, and that helps us stay organized. Now, another thing that I will always tell people, when you're trying to maintain your mental health through resiliency, one of the things that you have to do is you have to build in self-care. I tell all of my clients this. I have to tell myself this. Build in activities that energize you, that recharge those batteries, that make you feel like you're ready to go, right? And I don't mean, necessarily treating yourself, because self-care doesn't necessarily mean treating yourself. And if I was being honest, my self-care a lot lately has been a lot of Oreos, cookies, and sweets. Now, I'm not saying that those don't have their place because they absolutely do have their place. Those small little rewards that you're giving yourself, they're just a break. The sweet cookies, the taste, I love it. But the trick is to remember that self-care doesn't always include those nice little rewards, okay? They include making sure that we're doing things to ensure our health and our well-being in our mind and our body. So, making sure that we're eating healthy, or at least trying to eat as healthy as we can. I know right now it's pretty difficult to find, fresh food, especially if we're only going out to the grocery store once a week, once every couple of weeks. And on top of that, fresh food is expensive. So trying to eat healthy is a challenge, but, it's not a matter of, all or nothing. It's doing what we can, to make sure that we're getting those nutritious foods into us. It's going to help us feel great so that, maybe we have the energy to get out there and do some of those activities that we like doing. I think that, for myself, I've forgotten a lot about, with the quarantine going on, I've forgotten a lot about some of those activities that I can still perhaps do for myself. One of the things that just slipped my mind for the last few weeks is fishing. Never been fishing with a soul. I tend to go alone, right? And so it was one of those things that I just kind of slipped my mind. I'm like, I can still go out there and I can still throw a rod on, into the water. And that is something for myself that's going to recharge my batteries. I'm not next to anybody, staying with the social distancing. So, I tell my clients, I tell folks who are maybe struggling with, this time or even job searching, or maybe their resiliency or motivation, build in that self-care. Do things for yourself. If you are planning an activity, whether it's job searching, you're going to spend an hour online and you're going to send out applications. Afterwards, make sure that you're going to go do something for yourself. Maybe it is watch a Netflix show. Maybe it is going out and listening to the birds. Doesn't really matter. Making sure that you're building in that self-care is really, really important. If you're ever wondering about self-care ideas, you know what? Going online is a fantastic way. Pinterest is another great way to look for different activities, both inside and outside. YouTube is another great way. I love YouTube. I get most of my ideas from YouTube. I'm not going to lie. But once you start building in that self-care, you're going to find that you're going to have more energy to build on those skills that you need to work on. Right? It's going to be okay. You're going to feel like you can tackle those things because you felt organized. You felt like those big tasks have been broken down into manageable pieces. Okay. And once you do those things, you've got some self-care, you're feeling pretty good about yourself, you're building those skills. Guess what? That positive attitude that we talked about, that's going to start to change. You're going to start to see that, I can do this, or at least I can do a heck of a lot more than I thought I could, and one of the things that is great is that you can start tracking your progress, when you're breaking tasks down and you're building in self-care, and you can start to see through organization, all of those little things that you've been doing, you can start to see, hey, I'm doing a lot. And, I think that one of the things that people really forget to do is they forget to give themselves the 2 C's. If you're one of my clients, you probably hear me say this as well. We lack 2 C's, credit and compassion. Okay. And what I really mean by that is that we really lack, we don't give ourselves enough credit. And I mean that by saying for the challenges that we've been through, it's really easy to point out all of the mistakes that we've made. In a hiring process, it's always easier to talk about your weaknesses than your strength. It's easier to point that out. It's easier to be that negative Nelly, so to speak, rather than to give yourself a little bit of credit to say, hey, you know what? I've had these challenges and this is what I've gone through. And it's not a matter of, self-pity or anything like that, but it's being able to recognize the opportunity that you've had as a result of those challenges. I mean, if you think about some of the hardest times in your life, the first thing that you can say to yourself is, "I'm still here." Right? I'm looking back at that, so I am still here. I made it through that challenging time. And so, when you think about that even further, there's things that you've learned from that experiences, whether they're good, bad, or ugly. You've learned something, and so you have to give yourself the second C. right? Which is compassion, right? And I think that a lot of the times we don't give ourselves enough compassion to allow ourselves to have that, you know, to have those bad days, to have those bad reactions and say, you know what, I am feeling upset. I am feeling sad, fearful, anxious, depressed, angry, whatever it might be. We got to allow ourselves the opportunity to go through those experiences and to first recognize that we need to be there for ourselves first. And if we can find that ability to give ourselves compassion, then other people will see that and they're going to get on board with it. Okay, so credit and compassion. Make sure that you're giving yourself those, because those go a long way into changing your attitudes. Okay, you know, once you start giving yourself credit and compassion, once you start changing your attitudes in positive attitudes and towards believing in yourself, once you start developing those skills, you can start to see some of the gaps, some of those shortcomings, some of those places where you still need help. You know, and I think that's the third part of making sure that you're staying resilient in job searching, making sure that your mental health is still good while you job search, is first off, know where your supports are, know what you need help with, and give yourself compassion to know that it's okay to need help. You know, I think that a lot of us have grown up on that notion that, you know, independence, you know, and making sure that you can do everything that you need to take care of yourself. If you haven't succeeded, there's something else that you need to do to overcome it, right? And sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes you can still do everything that you need to be doing, and still there's something else that you need help with, or there's something else that's not clicking, right? And that can be where the supports come in. Right? And the first thing that I tell people is you need to break the stigma or the self-stigma of asking for help, of going into, whether it's a mental health agency, whether it's an employment agency, whether it's a food bank, whether it's a community service of any kind. You know, people, you know, are kind of got it into their head that, you know, they have to be ashamed or embarrassed or humbled because they're going to ask for help because they've identified a need. But here's the thing. Nobody is going to help you through it, right? The first thing is to know is that you are taking the steps to go out and seek help. That is something that you are doing. Nobody saves you from that decision. That is something that you should take pride in knowing that that is something that you are doing to improve your situation. And so you should be proud that you are making connections to resources that are out there. You know, and secondly, we stigmatize those resources that are out there, those supports, because we say, oh, well, they're not for me, they're for somebody else. You know, we take for granted that, you know, we're excluded from those supports. You know, and I can tell you from experience that if I had known about some of even just the employment supports that were available when I was graduating school, my employment career probably would have been different. And I can tell you with a degree of confidence that it would have been easier for me. I've made a lot of switches. I've had to learn a lot. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, you know, and so that was one thing that I suffered from, not asking for help, you know. And so, you know, don't be afraid. Come to Meta, give us a call. Let us help you out. Meta has a ton of services that are out there that are either in place right now or developing to help serve you with your job readiness, with your job search, even job retention, staying employed. You know, we've got Employment Ontario programs like employment supports and supported employment. We have online services. We've got telephone and email supports. We've got community connections. We've got resources, you know, whether it's on some of the topics that we've talked about before or some of the topics that we're talking about today. Let us help you. Let us be on your team. That's something that you can do right away that can help you feel maybe a little bit more in control, maybe make you feel a little bit more resilient. Okay, so give us a call at 613-966-9069. Okay, let them know that you talked or that you were joined in on the Facebook Live, that you saw our video, and that you're interested in some of the resources. If you're watching with us now and you're interested in some more resources, whether it's employment services, whether it's mental health services, you know, just type in services in the comments section. We'll reach out to you and we'll inquire on maybe what services you're looking for, and we'll absolutely help you connect with them. Now, last week we had a giveaway for a $25 gift card for gas. Now, we had some folks chime in. They had the Get Motivated down in the comments, and to our surprise, they were able to pass it along. They wanted to forward that to somebody else. So, with that kindness, we've got two $25 gift cards to give away today. So, if you're interested in being entered to win a chance for that $25 gift card, type in Get Motivated into the comment section. Okay, we'll announce the winner next week. We're going to be talking a lot more on Facebook Live about a number of different topics. We've got a lot of exciting things coming up, whether it's cover letters and job posting tips, whether it's talking online or on the phone to employers and cold calling, whether, we've got lots coming down the pipe. So please make sure that you share and like this video. Make sure that you subscribe to our Facebook page, and make sure that you check out metaservices.ca for more information on live webinars that are coming up, Facebook Live events that are coming up, and we will absolutely connect with you, okay? So once again, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that everybody is happy and healthy, and that you stay that way, and we look forward to talking with you guys next week, okay? So thank you so much. I appreciate the attendance, and we'll see you next time, okay? Bye now.